In this video, I want to talk about why achieving your dreams won't actually make you happy. Have you ever noticed that no matter what you accomplish, it never is enough? Like you finally hit that goal, you finally do that thing that you've been wanting to do for so long, and you finally accomplish it, and it feels good for a week, maybe two. But then you're right back to square one. Your mind is already looking for the next thing that's going to make you happy. And the truth is that that feeling never lasts. And if we're not careful, we could spend our entire lives chasing happiness that's always one step ahead. And so if you've ever wondered why happiness always feels just one step away, then this video is for you. And so this is something that I've been wrestling a lot with lately. And I've been wrestling with it because currently I'm in a full-time role that is turning into a part-time role. And so from going from full-time to part-time, it means that my base income is being essentially cut in half. And so that means that I am essentially forced to supplement that income in other means. And so for me, that means stepping up in my business, which is great, but at the same time, it's put me in a position where it almost feels like my back is up against the wall and that I need to almost force results. Like I need to make things happen. And there's this feeling like I keep telling myself that I'm almost there. Like I'm just so close. I just gotta push harder. I gotta work really long nights, get up early. I gotta grind. I just gotta keep pushing. Like I'm almost there. And once I get to there, wherever there is, once I get there and I kind of have my finances more in order, then everything will be okay. I'll be fine. I'll be at peace. I'll be happy. Everything will be good. Or at least that's what I've convinced myself. But I'm realizing more and more that peace and happiness never comes from achieving more. It always comes from how we show up in the now. It's always how I'm showing up right now in this very moment. And so this has been a recurring theme for most of my life. And so that's why I really feel called today to come and make this video to kind of break down this myth that happiness is somehow going to come in the future once we accomplish more. Once we accomplish whatever that is for you, fill in the blank. And so I want to break this down into 3 simple truths that have completely changed the way that I view happiness. And so point number 1 is the idea of never enoughness. So we all fall for the same trap. And it's that belief that we will finally feel complete and whole once we accomplish that next milestone. This has been a recurring theme my entire life. Literally my whole life. And I'm wondering if you can relate. Where I would always take this imagined goal that I have and I would place it up on this huge pedestal. And I would always look at that goal as once I accomplish that, once I get there, then everything's going to work out. Everything's going to be good. I can finally relax. I can finally enjoy life. I can finally be happy once that thing happens. But what happens, unfortunately, is I get there. I get to that imaginary promised land, that dream. I get there. It feels good for a week. And then I'm right back. Maybe not even a week. Sometimes I don't even get the feeling of reward because it's as soon as it happens, my brain just has to go and find what else needs to be accomplished. What else needs to happen? And it's funny because I can remember what I'm pretty sure was the very first time that I experienced this. So when I was a kid, I have an older brother who's 2 years older than me. And so growing up with him, I always seen him kind of hitting those little life milestones just before me in terms of, getting the driver's license, going to school, graduating school, getting a job, just kind of all those cool things. But the very first one was being able to sit in the passenger seat. Being able to sit in the passenger seat of my parents' car. That for me was huge, like monumental in size of how important that was to me for some reason as like a little boy. Looking up, seeing my parents always sitting in the passenger seat, and then seeing my brother sitting in the passenger seat, and then just me feeling like a little kid, sitting in the back seat. And so little me thought, once I am old enough, I can't remember how old it was. I was like 8 or 9 or 12, whatever it was. But I remember vividly the very first time that I got to sit in the front seat. It was like everything finally lined up. I'm finally old enough to sit in the front seat. And I remember not being that impressed. Like, it was cool, but it wasn't that great. And the very next thing that came up was, now it's going to be cool once I can actually drive. Which, then was probably another 6 years. So there were 6 more years of like sitting in the passenger seat and looking over at the driver and being like, once I can finally drive around and once I can finally get myself places, then that's going to be really cool. I got my license, turned 16, could drive. Yes, it was awesome, but it was always pushing it to the next thing. Once I was that age, then it was once I could get a job. Once I could get a job, it was once I graduate high school. Once I graduate high school, it was once I go to college and finish college. Finish college, it was getting the job that made $30 an hour. Once I got that, then it was getting a truck. That was a huge one for me. And then the really big one lately was once I could finally leave the factory job that I was working for the past 7 years since high school and work full-time remotely online. That was the latest and greatest, the dream that I've been waiting for, like I said, 7 years. And so basically every shift, every moment of every shift, working in that factory, I would be daydreaming about the day that I could come in and bring my notice and be done. And guess what? That day came, I put my notice in, I left the job, I've been working remotely from home full time. It's been great, but honestly, I think I'm more stressed out than when I was just in that job full time. And it's like, what's the next thing now? Now I got myself convinced that once my business makes X amount of money per month, then that's the new thing. And so I'm sure you're getting this concept by now. It's the idea, every time I arrived, my mind immediately went to what's next. It was never enough. Never enough. Always looking outside of me to be able to fill this void, to fill this feeling of incompleteness. And so, no matter what we achieve, the mind will always look for what's next. What else can we do? Because the mind is wired that way. Our minds are wired to always want more. The thing is, though, if happiness is always in that next thing, then that means that we can never really be happy. We can never really arrive. My next point is that time is finite. And I really got this point from reading a book called 4,000 Weeks, which talks about the average age, if you're lucky, you get to 80 years old, which works out to be 4,000 weeks. And so this book emphasizes the idea that our time is finite. It emphasizes the idea that since our time is finite, we're never really going to be able to do all the things that we want to do, right? Like, we're never going to accomplish everything on the to-do list. And that's not meant to be depressing. It's meant to be freeing and liberating, because it allows you to think about what you want to do with your limited time and what you don't want to do with your time. Instead of trying to focus on doing it all, we can focus on trying to do what truly matters. And so what I take from this is that if I only have a limited amount of time, it doesn't matter how much I do. What really matters to me is how I do what I do, how I show up in each moment. Like, even just making this video, I can sit here and think of it as a to-do, or I can sit here and just have fun with it and just make a video and just be here and be present with it, enjoy it. And so this has been a huge thing for me lately, is just really being more aware of how I show up to everything that I do. You know, the quality of the presence that I bring. Are my feet on the floor? Like, can I feel myself standing on the floor? Or am I just off into la la land in my head? Can I be with a person and actually sit there next to them and be with them? Or am I sitting there and am I thinking about all the work I have to do and my whole to-do list? And so it's quality over quantity. And so my third and final point is that we need to make time and space for slow moments. Because if we're never going to arrive, then we might as well make the time to enjoy the journey now. That means scheduling time for the things that don't feel like they're getting us ahead. The things that aren't productive. And I know if you're anything like me and you have these massive dreams and these things that you're working towards, sometimes it can be hard to take a rest and to slow down. And I am saying this all to myself because this is what I'm working through right now, is intentionally including time to rest, which for me, it's harder to sit down and rest, like to watch TV, for example, or to just go for a walk in the woods, than it is to sit down and just bust out a couple hours of focused, dedicated work. It's easier for me to do the work than to rest. Because, again, it's this belief that comes from thinking that my happiness will come on the other side of the work. It's just not true. And so lately, I've just had to remind myself to just step back, to go for the walk, to just sit down with nothing to do sometimes, to not make every moment about productivity. Because if I don't, then I miss the very thing that I'm working for, which is available to me right now. And so my big takeaway in this entire video, and honestly, probably in all of the work that I've done in my life, is summarized in this statement. Happiness is not found at the finish line. It is in how we walk the path to the finish line. You cannot be happy later. You can only be happy now. It's very tough to accept that. But I'm realizing more and more every single day that it's just truth. You hear all the gurus online talking about it. You hear all the spiritual saints talking about it. You hear all the ultra successful talking about it. How many times do we need to hear it before it can finally sink in? For me, I know I've heard this a million times, and I keep running into the same wall, which is why I just felt so compelled to make this video, because I know there's so many people out there struggling with the same thing that I've been struggling with. And so if you're anything like me, and you've been chasing that goal, chasing that milestone, chasing that whole version of yourself, what if you just stopped chasing for a moment and realized where you're at right now. Because the truth is, once again, that you're never going to arrive. As long as you are convinced that that will happen from something outside of you. As soon as you can realize that the only place that you can truly, truly arrive is right now, in this moment, the sooner you can be free, the sooner you can be happy. So that's all I have for this one. As always, get out there and be your own hero. And I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.